that's probably a good thing. The last thing you guys want to see is me twirling around naked and getting into a sailor uniform. This week's episode of Sailor Moon Crystal was a lot of fun. Nothing too mind-blowing, just getting to learn a little bit more about what the Sailor Senshi are doing. Usagi learning to actually be the leader of the team. There's a little bit of action that really wasn't anything too crazy, and Queen Beryl even decided to confront the team directly this week. So, this was a good episode. Nothing too mind-blowing, but something you should definitely check out if you were a fan of the original series. What I will say is I love the fact that they're actually teasing the character of Sailor Venus, who is a character I know nothing about. If there's one member of the Sailor Senshi who has completely slipped out of my mind from when I used to watch Toonami, it's Sailor Venus. And that's only because, to me, she always seemed like a carbon copy of Usagi. She looks nearly identical. She even has her own cat that's introduced this week. I believe his name is Artemis. He's a white cat, and she appears just at the end of the episode just hanging out on a rooftop, looking all ominous and shit, but we know she's probably just going to be just as cute and bubbly as Usagi is. But until we see that, this week's episode had some pretty cool developments. First, we got to see the home base of the Sailor Senshi, which is located underneath an arcade. That's just one of the things that makes this episode seem so 90s. I love this show for that. It definitely has the whole 90s vibe, not only with the character designs, which are true to the originals, but the music. The scene where Usagi and Chiba met this week, and he realized that she was Sailor Moon and everything, the music during that scene was just spine-tinglingly awesome. I loved it. It totally gave me this old, like, early 90s anime vibe, and I think that's something that's really great about this series. Even though it's being made now, it's still like a time capsule for the early 90s. Otherwise, the things that are really important about this week's episode is we get to learn that Luna is a cat from the moon. Yeah, pretty mind-blowing, and, you know, she brought the Sailor Senshi together to find the legendary Silver Crystal, and, of course, to protect their princess, who I'm guessing at this point is actually Usagi, who has actually been reincarnated as the princess, and you have Tuxedo Mask, who's like the king, who has also been reincarnated. And that probably goes with all the Sailor Senshi. They're all just dead people coming back to life. At least that's what I'm guessing at this point. But their underground base, the arcade, is awesome. It's totally like somewhere where the Power Rangers would hang out. I was waiting for Zordon to pop up in the corner somewhere. Totally didn't happen. But this is the part of the episode I was like, come on! Usagi, don't do this. I know you're kind of a dimwit, but do you have to be like such a little bitch right now? She decides to just throw a shit fit out of nowhere because everybody's saying Tuxedo Mask is bad. They don't know if they can trust him yet. But Usagi's like, I like him, blah, 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 blah. And she just decides to run away, and this leads the Sailor Senshi to have to fight against Zoisite alone because he has this crazy plan where he's cross-dressing and he's trying to steal energy from people and trying to get them to actually steal the legendary Silver Crystal. He, like, brainwashes them with TV. Is this some sort of metaphor to say that people are being zombified by watching television? The battle against Zoisite is nothing special. Basically, we just get to see Rei, Ami, and Mako transform, launch a few attacks, and then they just fall on their backs dead. This is when Tuxedo Mask and Sailor Moon have a confrontation with each other, where basically Tuxedo Mask reassures Usagi that she should be the leader because she's the one who has opened up all of them. She's the one who's been the friend to them, and she's able to bring out the best in people. And this is probably her best character trait, and it is probably the thing I like about her most, and I even mentioned that in my previous reviews. But it's at this point that she finally just decides to become a badass out of nowhere, transforms into Sailor Moon, and uses her weird little moon wand thing to actually start healing the Sailor Senshi and all the other people who are slowly having their energy drained. These guys do everything slow. So, no surprise, Zoisite gets his ass kicked. Queen Beryl decides to just run away and doesn't really do anything aside from look menacing. And that's pretty much the end of the episode. However, there are teasers. Like I said, there's Sailor Venus, who is hanging out on a rooftop with Artemis the White Cat. And we have Usagi, who finally realizes that Tuxedo Mask is Mamoru Chiba. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Sailor Moon Crystal? Pretty good stuff. They're finally starting to open up the story and the universe of Sailor Moon a little bit more now that we have our core team together. However, do not watch this series for the action. You will be disappointed. This series is really about the dynamic and the friendship of Usagi and her friends and how she's able to sort of slowly become the Captain America of the Avengers, if you will. The thing that I really liked about this episode is the tease of Sailor Venus. Not only at the beginning of the episode when she was imagining that the video game was talking to her, but even at the very end of the episode when you saw her hanging out on the rooftops. I just can't wait to see what her character is all about, and why she's been around longer than the other Sailor Senshi. Like, why she has a longer history. Did she already have powers before, or is she literally pulling like a Bruce Wayne Batman, where she really doesn't have any powers at all, and she just sort of wears her costume and does her thing and hasn't gotten her powers yet. Otherwise, Queen Beryl is actually not that great of a villain. I was like, oh shit! Queen Beryl's about to come down and start messing shit up. She basically just pulls out her magic scepter and nothing happens. They just sort of fall over, the screen sort of distorts a little bit, Zoisite gets his ass kicked, she immediately retreats. And obviously that's because Queen Beryl is actually working for an even greater power that they hint at, which is basically just this big evil shadow with glowing eyes. It totally looks like a villain from the Care Bears. But whatever, you know, this is a show that if you try to think about it too seriously, you're not going to have a good time watching it. This is a show for fans of the original Sailor Moon anime and manga series, and for those who grew up with it on Toonami. And even if you're just a fan of old 90s anime, check it out. It's just a lot of fun to see all of this, the ridiculous costumes, the arcades. God, I wish we still had arcades here in the US. I know they're a real prevalent thing in Japan, but like the fact that their base is under an arcade and everything's just like, this is such a badass 90s show. I love it. Otherwise, nothing too mind-blowing, but still something fun to watch if you want to pass the time. I highly recommend this for Sailor Moon fans and for those who grew up with it on Toonami. So I'm going to give this week's episode a 3 out of 5. Check it out, guys. Pretty fun stuff. Thank you for watching my review today. Before you leave, make sure to hit that like button so you can give this video a thumbs up. And please tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Sailor Moon Crystal. And make sure to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. You can do so by clicking on this little button right up here. You can also check us out on Facebook and on Twitter.
Do you like Amazon.com? I know I do. Corey and I now have an Amazon link in our video description box below. And if you go to it and buy anything through Amazon.com, it will support our channel. So bookmark that link, make it happen, and support our channel without having to do a damn thing.
Another great way you guys can help support our channel is by donating directly through our PayPal link in the description box below. We recommend $2 a month, although this is completely optional. But the best way to go about this is by sneaking into your mom's room and taking $2. This way, she won't even notice. And we won't have to shake you up for all of your lunch money. So guys, that concludes this review today. Super Kami Guru 9000. Out.